Hey there, and welcome back to the Coping Skills class. I'm your host, Tom DeBray. Thanks for tuning in. And today we're going to talk about cognitive behavior therapy. Now, a lot of people get caught up in what is cognitive behavior therapy, and really, one of the this diagram here really kind of sums it up nice and neat. Our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors are all interactive, and one can affect the other. Usually our thoughts and emotions in some form will affect one another, and that'll affect our behaviors. What we want to do is, with cognitive behavior therapy, we want to try and get like our thoughts to our thoughts what they need to be. Where are we looking at a distorted thought, or are we looking at an unhealthy thinking pattern? And what impact does that have on how we're feeling? And what impact does that have when and how we're behaving? So there's a good video that we have that really kind of is a nice example, and they got better graphics than what I have up. So I'm going to put a link down below, and it's just a nice little summary of cognitive behavior therapy, because really that's a lot of what we're doing here. There's a lot of behavioral strategies. There's a lot of cognitive strategies, and it's all part of the cognitive behavior therapy wheel. And so we're going to be taking a look at a few other of those strategies coming up, and what that looks like. So what I want you to do is to practice this after you looked at the video. So if you want, you can pause this now and go look at the link below. And then we're going to come back, and I want you to practice this. So I'll put a little pause here, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes. Okay, well, welcome back. And so what I want you to do is I want you to pick a scenario, preferably one that's not like a 10 out of 10 for intensity, but if you had something that was irritating, or you had an argument with somebody that you like, or maybe you don't like, and I want you to kind of describe that situation. So I want you to take out your binder, and I want you to write down the situation at this time, and I want you to pause the video and take some time, just a couple sentences, just to briefly describe a recent scenario. Now, I want you to think about what are some of the thoughts you had with that situation. So did you, were you using some of the unhealthy thinking habits? What was your interpretation of that interaction? And what were some of your judgments about it? So take some time and just pause the video and write that down. Now, there's usually a feeling associated with that thought as well. So how did you feel as a result of that thought or that situation? So now sometimes we can have a flood of emotions. And so what I want you to do is, I want you, if you have to narrow it down, if you have like 20 things that you're thinking about that scenario, I want you to narrow it down to the top three most intense. And I want you to actually rate those. So out of 1 to 10, how intense was it? And they don't have to add up between the three. Each one of them can carry their own 1 to 10 intensity. So you can literally have 10 out of 10 for all of them if you want. But I want you to rate those intensities as well. So I'll get you to pause that and write those down. Now, how did you behave as a result of those thoughts or feelings? So was there something that happened, or what did you do in response to that scenario? So take some time, pause the video, and write that down. And now looking back, was your behavior appropriate for the situation? So do you feel that your behavior was acceptable, not acceptable? Was it an overreaction, an underreaction, or do you feel that the response was, very accurate to that? So I'll get you to pause the video again, and I'll get you to write that down. Now, the big thing is what information would you need to make a different decision? So looking back, you know, sometimes when we look back at a situation, it's like, oh, I would have done that differently, or I would have done this, or oh, that, you know, that was really an overreaction. So what information would you have needed to make a more accurate decision, or, you know, and what behaviors would you have done differently? So I'm going to get you to write that down. Okay, so this is a basic exercise with CBT, and we're going to be expanding on this to a much greater extent. But I want you to get used to the idea of, like, we're really going to start to analyze why we do the things that we do, how we feel the way that we feel, and how does that all interact with ourselves. And as a result of that, is what I'm feeling or thinking accurate, and is my response, you know, appropriate for the situation? So I thank you for taking part in this practice. I want you to do this at least twice this week. So over the next 7 days, I want you to try and use this scenario and or this template, and I want you to try and apply that to another situation that happened. You don't necessarily have to react differently. Really, at this point, it's about self-awareness and just being aware of what you're doing, what you're thinking, and what you're feeling, and is that accurate? So don't worry if you're like, oh man, I wish I would have done something different with this. You know, don't worry about it. Right now, it's all about self-awareness. So do the exercise. I want you to try and do it twice in the next 7 days. And then from there, we're going to expand on that in future sessions. So thanks for tuning in, and we're going to see you in the next session.